Putin meets Erdogan as Turkey and Russia finalize missile systems deal in NATO snub. Mr. Erdogan said Turkish and Russian officials will meet to finalize Turkey's S-400 surface-to-air missile systems deal in the coming week. Turkey has been negotiating with Russia to buy the system for more than a year, and today's meeting in Ankara marked the third set of talks between Mr. Erdogan and his Russian counterpart for the third time in less than a month. Washington and some of its NATO allies see the decision as a snub because the weapons cannot be integrated into the alliance's defenses. Turkey expects to receive its first such system in 2019. Defense Minister Nurettin Canikli said in November, adding that the deal includes two S-400 systems while one was optional. Mr. Erdogan, in a joint press conference with Mr. Putin, said, "Our officials will come together in the coming week to finalize the S-400 issue." Turkey has been working to develop its own defense systems and equipment and has lined up several projects for the coming years, including combat helicopters, tanks, drones and more. Mr. Erdogan also said Ankara and Moscow were on the same page regarding the U.S. move on Jerusalem and added that two leaders would keep in contact on the issue. The Russian president visited Ankara today with a spokesman for his Turkish counterpart, saying the pair would discuss the situation in Jerusalem after Donald Trump recognized the city as the capital of Israel amid a war of words between Turkey and Israel. Mr. Trump's announcement has triggered a war of words between Mr. Erdogan and Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, straining ties between the two U.S. allies, which were restored only last year after a 6-year breach that followed the Israeli storming of a Turkish aid ship. On Sunday, Mr. Erdogan called Israel a terror state. Mr. Netanyahu responded by saying he would accept no moral lectures from Mr. Erdogan, who he accused of bombing Kurdish villages, jailing opponents and supporting terrorists. And today Mr. Erdogan took aim directly at Washington over Mr. Trump's move. "The ones who made Jerusalem a dungeon for Muslims and members of other religions will never be able to clean the blood from their hands," he said in a speech in Ankara. With their decision to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital, the United States has become a partner in this bloodshed. Mr. Trump's announcement triggered days of protests across the Muslim world and clashes between Palestinians and Israeli security forces in the West Bank, Gaza and East Jerusalem, in which scores of Palestinians were wounded and several killed. Commenting on the crisis, Mr. Putin said any steps to preempt an agreement between Israel and Palestine are counterproductive. He said such steps are destabilizing and could provoke conflict. Hours before the visit to Turkey, Mr. Putin ordered a significant part of Moscow's military contingent there to start withdrawing on Monday, declaring their work largely done. Mr. Putin, who polls show will be re-elected comfortably in March, made the announcement during a surprise visit to Russia's Hmeimim air base in Syria, his first since Russia intervened in the conflict. He held talks with President Bashar al-Assad and addressed Russian forces,